Good morning. It is Thursday, December 4th, 2025. A big Arctic outbreak is going to spell a lot of problems for many locations east of the Rockies. This is going to trigger more Alberta Clipper type snowstorms across the Great Lakes, the northern tier of the United States, and across the Northeast, with very cold Arctic temperatures that are also going to filter in from the north. So brace yourself for this big extreme pattern change that is coming for many locations. So with that being said, here's a look at the current satellite imagery, and we can clearly see where that winter storm is way off the side of the screen here, well past Nova Scotia, Canada, leaving everyone nice and quiet in its wake. But there's another storm system that is getting ready to set up shop here across the deep south here of the United States, across Louisiana and Arkansas into Mississippi, as well as portions of Texas. Most of this moisture, though, is going to ride pretty much towards the southern end of Georgia into the Carolinas, but the northern half of this could also produce some decent snowfall across Tennessee, as well as portions of West Virginia and Virginia in days to come. We'll be talking about that system right now. But before we get talking about that winter storm that the Southeast is going to be dealing with in days to come, let's talk about here the 500 millibar height chart forecast here. And this is basically your height anomalies for this time of the year. Basically, what we're looking at here is where there are areas of nicer weather, where it's warmer than average, and where we have the colder than normal air at 18,000 feet, and that transpires down to the surface. So putting this into motion here over the next several days, we can see what the pattern is going to be doing over the next couple of days here, especially by the time we go into the weekend. More Arctic air is on the way. Okay, this pattern isn't going anywhere. Get used to it. We're talking about some very cold temperatures across much of the Great Lakes, into the northern tier of the United States, across Canada. Boy, wait until you see the air temperature forecast for much of southern Canada. It is looking pretty extreme by all means. And this is going to trigger more snowstorms. And we'll be looking at the rainfall precipitation radar forecast here in just a second. Okay. So that's that, and this pattern is going to just continue. It's not changing. It's not going anywhere. All right, so you can see across much of Western Canada, there is your Newfoundland and the Labrador low pressure system there, some Greenland blocking up here, as well as another upper level ridge pattern over California, going to keep us well above average for this time of the year, unless you're under the Tule fog, the valley fog here in the Central Valley, where you're probably wondering, what do you mean by above average temperatures, right? And then, of course, more trophy weather coming in across the Pacific Northwest. But the pattern will eventually change, but not right away. It's probably going to take about 10 days for things to really change here, potentially. We always say potentially because the models don't know what the heck they're talking about half the time beyond 7 days. So you can see here a last good gulch of colder air as we go into the middle to the end of next week because of this northwesterly flow, nice good ridge here. And then watch the pattern change, and then things change. You got some ridge across the Great Lakes into the Midwest. So maybe there's a light at the end of the tunnel with all of this, but of course, we are in the land of hope and dreams, okay? When we're looking very far out into the modeling field here in the model world, this is all numerical guidance. Anything beyond, say, 7 or 8 days is very unreliable in the first place. So I wouldn't say that, we're going to get a ridge. It's going to be warm, good, pattern change coming. David loves us. No, we're not going to go that far yet. There's still some uncertainty here. And if we actually look at the 12Z forecast here, yeah, right? That's a cold weather pattern across the Great Lakes in the Northeast. But this pattern here, boom. That's why you can't trust a 10-day forecast. But if this does pan out, though, this would be some good news for the Midwest. More zonal flow, warmer weather, and then stormy out west, which we need more rain, even so we don't need any more, climatology. It's going to get to us if we keep this dry weather pattern going. All right, so let's talk about that snowstorm for the Southeast. And with that, let's go to the regional, and let's go to this area right in here, the Tennessee Valley, you name it, right? So as we go forward here, you can see a little bit of snow. Actually, let's go to here, the Mid-Atlantic. That's the snowstorm right in here. This is what we're looking at. All right, so snowfall is increasing over the next 24 hours. So by pretty much tomorrow night, there will be a little bit of blips here, maybe some snow flurries. It's going to come down a little heavier as we go into early Friday morning. So this would be about 5 or 6 in the morning Eastern Standard Time for those people that are waking up, our early birds for morning commuting. Yeah, a little bit of snow coming down here across most of Virginia, North Carolina, as well as the southern half there of the state of West Virginia, and then moving into Maryland and even Delaware. This is not going to be very significant in all, since this is going to probably give you all maybe 2 to 3 inches of snow. But hey, snow is snow, and any little bit on the roadway could lead to some travel problems, a little bit of delays on the roadway for your morning commute here for Friday morning. And then that system is out of here, leaving you all nice and dry. So that's a little the extent of that system. Let's look to see if there's any other brothers and sister storm systems out there beyond this system right here. Okay. So looking now out into the latter part of the weekend, we're looking at the Pacific Northwest, more snowfall for the higher elevations here of the Rockies. Yeah, there's the Rocky Mountains right there, and then more snow here for the Pacific Northwest. And as we go forward here in time, there is your Alberta Clipper, somewhat some limited moisture associated with it. But yeah, that's some decent snow there falling across central, northern Iowa, southern Minnesota. That's some good snow, some gusty winds associated with that. That storm falls apart as it moves further to the east here. So this would be for Sunday morning in Pacific Standard Time. This would be late Sunday morning for the Midwest. You can see a little bit of snow there. And by Sunday night, things dry out. So there's not a whole lot here on this model as far as snowfall forecast. So it'll be a dry system overall because of this Arctic high winning things out. Here's another Alberta Clipper. The Euro's been quite consistent at showing this system being a little bit more impactful, especially for Michigan. And this would be for the early part of next week. So we're talking about Monday and Tuesday here. This would be the 8th and the 9th of December. We're looking at some decent snowfall here. Maybe some lake effect associated with that because of cooler air moving in. But that system, as it moves further east, kind of falls apart, but there will be some lake effect snow here, like over Buffalo, New York, Watertown, New York, getting a little bit of lake effect snow, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, getting a little bit of snow by the middle of next week. This would be for Tuesday night on the 9th day of December. And then guess what? There's more. There's more, yes. Going to keep this going. The Alberta Clipper parade of storms going to continue here. So looks like another snowstorm on the way for the middle of next week on Wednesday morning, the 10th day of December. And then more rain and stormy weather for Oregon and Washington. But desert Southwest looking nice and dry. And then another one. Yeah, just these little clipper systems really going to be in place for a while before maybe the pattern changes in such a way that those systems go away. But that means maybe whatever colder air is left here, any storms that do try to develop, there might be some freezing rain for the end of next week, but I'm not going to go that far into advance because it's very far out. But yeah, we'll have to watch that. And then, of course, California, maybe more rainfall and stormy conditions, strong winds, heavy Sierra snow. We really need it here very bad. So now that we talked about the storms, how much snowfall are you going to see over, let's go to the first 4 days here. So the first 4 days in Virginia with that little sneaky system, you might see about 2 to 3 inches of snowfall out of this. So we're not talking a whole lot of snowfall like we just got done talking about, but it's going to be enough to cause a little bit of commute problems. So allow some extra time to get to your destination for Friday morning, that is. Not much snow here in the next 4 days, but yeah, the Great Lakes, you're going to see more snowfall because the lake effect is going to be still going. There's that Alberta Clipper here. It could bring about 8 to 10 inches up here in the northwestern half of Iowa, and then maybe even into Montana. And then, of course, the Rocky Mountains getting a lot of snow, putting this all the way out in time with the additional Alberta Clippers. That really adds up, doesn't it? By the time we get into the next couple of weeks, yeah, you might be seeing maybe a foot of snow, a foot and a half in Wisconsin and the Great Lakes here. Then big time accumulating snow here across much of the Pacific Northwest here, where some areas could get 3 to 6 feet of snowfall over the course of the next 2.5 weeks. As far as rainfall goes, you can see quite a bit of rainfall accumulation, especially over, Washington and Oregon. Yeah, that's 13 inches. That's 16 inches of rain. Wow, that's a lot of water. 20 inches over here in some of the Cascades. So significant rainfall. And along the coast here, 17, 18 inches of rain definitely expected there. California, hopefully, fingers crossed, we can get more rain in here as we go into the middle of the month of December. But hope is in itself not a planning tool, and we cannot hope for rainfall or snowfall for the mountains this far out in time. So please take that with a grain of salt. But boy, Southern California looking dry for the next couple of weeks. I don't see anything significant anytime soon. And then, of course, for Arizona, pretty much blank here. Not much rain or anything anytime soon. So very dry here in the desert Southwest for the extended forecast. So now let's talk about temperatures, because yeah, if it's not snowing in your area, doesn't mean you're not going to get the biggest of what, and that's the temperatures. It's cold. It's cold this morning, and it's going to remain that way for the next several days here. Just repeated Arctic outbreaks. Deep south, temperatures in the 50s and 60s. But boy, when you go north here, into the Great Lakes and into the northern plains, man, this is a really cold weather pattern. Doesn't look like it's going to change anytime soon. And so by Tuesday morning, there's cold weather here in Virginia, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut. These areas over here, boy, it is going to be downright cold. And this is not your wind chill forecast. You would want to basically drop temperatures by 10 or 15 degrees with the wind chill factor. And then look at this. Yep, it doesn't end. It does not end. Yeah, looks like very cold weather still continuing for much of the Great Lakes. Really nice and warm down here, though. 70s and 80s, perhaps. Yeah, go south with this type of pattern because, yeah, it's going to be cold and it's going to be annoying that you can't get outside. So I would drive south for the holidays where it's going to be warmer. That's what most of the models indicate here, like the Euro. While, yeah, in Canada, you're used to it. I know, but boy, negative 30 degrees up in there in Manitoba and Saskatchewan. Hudson Bay also really cold. It's definitely feeling like winter for this time of the year. Now, really quickly, I wanted to show you all the temperature anomaly forecast. Because, yeah, temperatures well below average right now, and it will stay that way for a while. So all these blue and purple colors denote temperatures that are below average. Anything in orange and red is temperatures above average for your location. Climatology, right? So the departure from average for the time of the year. So in early to mid-December here, it's going to be colder than it should be for this time of the year in December in the Great Lakes in the Northeast, by about 15 to 20 degrees below normal. And then it looks like more colder air moving on in. It's just going to be a repeated slap on the face with colder air mass after colder air mass after colder air mass. But again, if that pattern change arrives by the 10 to 15 day mark, you can see less colder air up here in the Great Lakes and more warmer air in the Midwest and the Deep South, and the colder air retracts a little northwards. So like in British Columbia, Alberta, Canada, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan, Canada, that's where all the colder than normal air would be on this model run. But again, we're in the land of hope and dreams here on the global computer model. By the way, if you're watching this, Mark Finan, really great meteorologist. Love that new term that you're using, hope and dreams, right? This is a hope and dream forecast for a lot of you that want the cold weather. Well, this is very far out. And if we look at the previous model run from yesterday morning, is warm. This is warm in the Midwest. Now this run, different. So we can't just say, oh, it's going to be cold again, it looks like, by the 18th of December. I mean, that's pretty selfish if you're predicting that far out on one single model, right? So that's what we're dealing with. But anyways, if you did find this morning's weather forecast very helpful, detailed, informative for Thursday, December 4th, 2025, please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Again, as I said just now, please hit the bell icon to get latest notifications here, as I am uploading these videos in the morning instead of the afternoon, just so because I have a hard time keeping up with things in the afternoon. So we're trying something out new here where we upload here on the channel at around 6 in the morning Eastern Standard Time every day, as often as I can possible, since I'm home all the time at around midnight when recording these videos. But share, like, and subscribe, and I'll be back with you more for Friday morning with another weather forecast.